Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
That's funny.
So that's a live look at Donnie on Christmas Day coming up after he wraps a present to himself and opens it.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I don't think that was great for our podcast listeners.
Yeah.
By the way.
Just Google it up.
Mr. Bean.
It's tagged Valentine's Day, but it's actually a Christmas episode.
Can we move on to Thomas now?
Mr. Bean and Thomas Drance.
I don't know if Thomas is familiar with sending gifts to himself. We'll find out. Okay. It is Friday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our DTMZ sponsor, Whistler Golf Club. What do you always say about Whistler Golf Club, Rick?
Great track, great track.
There you go. There you go. Canucks in Seattle tonight to take on the Kraken as we bring in Thomas Drance from The Athletic, who was at the Seahawks game last night, wearing some Grizzlies gear. How are you?
Why?
What do you mean, why? It's a nice coat.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, why?
You see that stuff all over the place. It's beautiful.
I don't see Grizzly stuff anymore.
Okay.
It's not very warm. It's not very warm in the hotel. I just needed something else on, and this coat was what I brought. This coat was what I wore to the Seahawks game last night. Not a great game, but great vibes, obviously, in and around Seattle in the lead up to that game, and a ton of Vancouver people there.
I bet.
Yeah. A lot of people down here for an epic sports weekend. I'd suspect there'll be a fair bit of road team support for the Canucks at the Climate Pledge Arena this evening.
Much like there was for the Kraken last weekend at Rogers Arena. Thomas, the Canucks, how badly do they need, and this has to do with our poll question today, how badly do they need to add a defenseman?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do. I think we all know that. You know, I saw the poll question, and I do think you have to be very careful giving up assets unless you're getting, it's not just a young player. It's not just a 25-year-old player. It's like a player who's going to be affordable for a fairly lengthy run of time, at least through, that sort of Quinn Hughes extension. A guy who can play for you who's like $1.5-2 million is really what this blue line needs, because things are going to get tricky around this team cap-wise with the Oliver Ekman-Larsson buyout increasing, with Elias Pettersson's next deal, with Filip Hronek's next deal, right? I mean, that was one of the big reasons why I was so hesitant, nervous, critical of the Hronek deal, was what it looks like beyond this season if it works, right? Sort of limited the upside, in my view, of doing that deal. It's going to be tough to meaningfully improve this blue line. We've seen that. I think they've done some good work. Like, Canucks management, to their credit, has done some good work, but Soucy's absence, for a protracted period of time here has obviously challenged that, because he looked like a fantastic fit in his 13 healthy games. And now, you're sort of looking at it. And I mean, the guy I'm still sort of wondering about is Christian Wolanin. We saw what he could do in Rick Tocchet's system down the stretch last season. We know that it works if you play Wolanin Myers in third pair minutes. Like, I'm interested. I'm keen to see that again. And then then we'll see where Mark Friedman's at. We'll see where Myers himself is at coming out of that Colorado game. I think you could limp through for a couple weeks anyway with Cole Friedman, based on what we've seen that pair do, and Wolanin Myers, based on what we've seen that pair do. But there's no question. I mean, Vancouver is shallow on the back end anyway. And if you can't sustain an injury to your, fifth most used defenseman by ice time, which is what Soucy's been for the Canucks this season, that's not a good sign about the overall quality of your back end. I don't think that's a controversial take. I don't even think that take's hot, maybe lukewarm, and just sort of goes to show you how much work is still required to upgrade what Vancouver has on the blue line.
Thomas Pettersson,
Just 1 goal, 7 games, but also, on the ice for a lot of goals of late as well. What's going on there in your eyes with his play?
Well, some of it's simple regression. I mean, that's part of it. I do think that he's battling injury. I don't think that's a secret. Rick Tocchet's been explicit about the fact that Pettersson's been playing through something. We've seen him get maintenance days. We've seen, that sort of like surrounding noise that often accompanies a player who's battling through something. So I'm sure that's part of it as well. And then just generally, and I think this applies beyond Pettersson, but also to the JT Miller line. Like, we're not seeing Vancouver really control play with their top 6 forwards on the ice. In fact, this team's been outshot with their top 6 forwards on the ice this season. The bottom 6 has emerged as a real strength of this team, but right now Vancouver's not generating enough, not controlling play, not generating enough of a territorial advantage with their top 6 forward group on the ice. If Pettersson's really being held back by an injury, there's only so much you can do there. And then the Miller line's being fed to tough minutes, really brutal deployment. The fact that they're not getting outscored is good. That's a positive, a big one, and it's been driving this team's early season success. But as the sample expands, and as the extent to which they're losing the territorial battle sort of trends in the wrong direction, the way it has for the last 10 games here, it's hard to continue to outscore that. Like, it's hard to continue to generate the sort of edge that this team's enjoyed 5-on-5 in terms of goal scoring, in terms of outscoring their opponents, if you're getting outshot. So, it'll be really interesting to see what the Canucks do at morning skate and tonight against the Kraken. Some additional injuries on the blue line that I think we're all monitoring, and then the prospect of maybe some forward line juggling, which could await the Canucks in Seattle, something we haven't seen much of this season yet, in part because this team hasn't really hit the skids at any point. They've played so well that Rick Tocchet's been able to rely on having a super stable lineup. I wonder if that may be, like, if Tocchet might have to stare at the whiteboard and try to find some answers right now.
Hoglander points in 4 straight games, 6 goals. He's still on the 4th line. Has he made a case to be moved up higher in the lineup?
I think so. I mean, as I discuss this dynamic right now, which is Vancouver's top 6 is being outshot, struggling to generate chances, and Vancouver's bottom 6 has sort of emerged as a strength of the team. To me, I think you can look at 2 key engines for that, right? One is Connor Garland, and one is Nils Hoglander. Now, do they lose some of their play driving edge if you move them up the lineup and they're playing more minutes against harder competition? Maybe, but to me, the most straightforward answer to address the top 6 isn't outshooting their opponent's problem. Is to take 2 of the guys who are driving really quality, like high quality possession in the bottom 6 and try them out a little higher up the lineup. If you've got forward depth as a real advantage, and I think the Canucks do, there's a way to use it to maybe fill in some gaps that are kind of emerging, I think, when we watch what's happening with Vancouver's top 6 forward group, especially in the wake of that Colorado game. Although also that Kraken loss, right? Where, I mean, Matty Beniers was the best player on the ice, decisive, when the Canucks lost to the Kraken last weekend. The top of Colorado's lineup was decisive when Vancouver lost to Colorado. So, maybe it's not an urgent change, but if Vancouver's form continues to sputter a little bit here, I think Garland, Hoglander bumping them up the lineup is a pretty straightforward way to maybe get some more territory, maybe get some more of that good OZP out of your top 6.
And quickly, Thomas, you and Harm Dial and The Athletic have graded every Vancouver forward through 20 games. Who came out on top? Who got an F?
Oh, there's no Fs. I mean, how could there be Fs? Look at this team.
You're hard on people.
I know that.
Yeah, no, there's no Fs. Not for this team right now.
Okay, a C then.
Gone so well. We gave Anthony Beauvillier a C. Okay, I think that might be the only guy, to be totally honest. And I mean, I think he's played fine. I think he's played well. He's played more minutes than his spot in line rushes would indicate. Like, he's not really a 4th line forward, but it's been quiet. I think it's been quiet around him, a little bit too quiet around him. And the play driving hasn't been there. It hasn't not been there, but it hasn't been like high end necessarily, even as, he clearly has Rick Tocchet's trust, plays in leverage, often with Vancouver's top line. So, it's not that he's been poor or anything. It's just that you'd hope for a little more, given his experience, given his cap number. And then, at the top of the list was Quinn Hughes. And obviously, I mean, this guy's leading the NHL in scoring as a defenseman and has leveled up significantly as a goal scorer, as an all-around threat. I mean, he's taken that big step where you go from being, hey, he's probably a top 10 defenseman in this league to, is this guy one of the 5 most impactful hockey-playing humans on the planet right now? To me, he is. And that's a really tough leap. That's a really tough leap to make. So kudos to him. It's been a ton of fun to watch. I think we're all enjoying the ride, gentlemen.
This hit gets an A+ for the Grizzlies gear, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for this. I appreciate it.
Thomas, I do have an update. I have an update for both of you. Niles Amon and Cole McWard, Jeff Patterson tweeting, have been listed on the Canucks roster. So that looks like one of the right shot D got really hurt in Colorado. We'll figure it out.
Friedman or Myers?
Yeah, Friedman or Myers, one of those two. But McWard's been called up, and so has Amon.
Thanks, Thomas. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say something?
No, my pleasure. Just Niels Amon's obviously been really productive down in Abbotsford. Cole McWard a little bit less so. So we'll see how they fare if they get into the lineup tonight. Sounds like they probably will.
Yep.
A+ for the Grizzlies gear. Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks, boys.